Hey guys, welcome to the Sophisticated Scoundrel. Today we're going to talk about women who live under the shadows of their father and how this is going to affect you and your relationship. And before we do that, please download. I've got a new guide for you guys. It's 9 steps in winning back your ex. Because I can't tell you how many guys ask me about this. They've been in a breakup and they want to know what to do with it. So I figured, hey, let me just put this into a nice, free, downloadable document for you guys to look at, study, and keep. So click that link in the first pinned comment or in the info section below. Okay, so let's get to it. I've got my notebook today because there's a lot that I want to cover. And so I'm going to be kind of referencing this as we go. But a lot of guys have talked to me about women that they've dated who've lived under the shadow of their father. And I don't mean this in a good way, because there's two different ways that a woman will be influenced by her father. And I want to discuss the difference between those two. And one of them is going to be obviously positive. One of them is more negative. So in order to do this, let's first discuss the two types of influence, the positive and the negative, because I want to be able to show you the clear distinction about how a girl is developed when she lives under either of these types of father figures. So the first one we're going to talk about is the more loving, supportive, and the positive influence in her life. Now, these kind of fathers are going to be much more emotionally grounded. They have good emotional self-control. They're able to experience a range of emotions. They can smile, laugh, have fun, but they also know when to put their foot down. They know when to have boundaries, and they know how to be stern and strict when they need to be, when it comes to discipline, when it comes to setting rules, when it comes to having boundaries. They know they have a line, and they make it very clear that, hey, this is not to be crossed. Now, these types of fathers, while they have these boundaries, they also have the other side that shows her love, affection, and gives her that part of any human, the need of any human, which is receiving love and affection. So, he could be upset with her about a certain thing, but then when it comes to other things, when she does a good job with things, when it comes to when she's, doesn't make a mistake or things like that, he can be affectionate. He can tell her, hey, you did a great job, or I love you, or I appreciate that, or he gives her those things that lets her know that she's a worthwhile, a loved human being. And it's not just this one-sided thing of, hey, you did this wrong, and they're upset, they're mad, they're so stern, they're harsh. It's not just that. It's a good balance between the two. And when a girl has a father like this, she's going to want to go to him, not because she's living in fear, but she does truly respect him, and she wants to get that approval, but in a positive way. She knows that he'll be happy and he'll let her know. And this creates a bond between the two of them where she trusts him, and she has this image of a father, a male figure in her life that is guiding her, and he's doing what's best for her. And when he needs to be disciplinary, he will. But when she does well, he also is not stingy, letting her know how he feels about that, and gives her affection and love that she needs. So women who have the type of father who are very harsh, these kinds of women are also going to be seeking approval, but because it's more out of fear, it's this thirst for the approval that they're hoping that they get, they're hoping that they get that love and affection, which they actually never ever do. So that particular side of their needs and being letting them know that they're loved and get affection, that never is met. Now, coming from a father who's got that positive influence in their life, this is the type of man that woman is going to be used to. She's going to be okay with a man who stands up for himself, who has boundaries. But she's also going to expect a man who can show her love and affection, and she's going to be comfortable with it because that's what she's used to, that's what she grew up with. So she's going to seek out guys who treat her the same way her father did. And these are going to be the types of women who've gone through these upbringings are going to bring a much healthier, positive relationship with the man that they're with, because she's going to be comfortable around a guy who is masculine. If he's not masculine, she probably will not be interested in him. If he doesn't exhibit those positive behaviors, she's not gonna find him attractive because she's used to men being a certain way, and she's comfortable following a man or listening to a man's leadership because she did those same things with her father, because he was really good at that too, and it showed her, hey, I can trust men. The man in my life, he was looking out for me, and I hope that the man that I date or marry will do the same things for me, and she'll feel very comfortable with that. And you'll notice that women who don't have that usually are much more skeptical. They have much more resistance to guys who want to be a leader, who are comfortable being the leader. They're going to question it. They're going to poke holes in it. They're going to shit test more often because they don't trust it. So they need to keep poking and prodding to make sure it's real so they can let go. But it's very hard for them, even if they do experience that realness of a masculine man. So again, fathers who are have a positive influence on their daughters, they're going to set their daughter up to be with a man who, like I said, who does have his boundaries, but is also going to give her that love and kindness that she also needs. So let's flip it over to the domineering fathers, the very harsh and brutal disciplinarians that some fathers are. Now, these kind of guys are just always seem to be mad or they're very brutal in how they discipline their kids. They're always pointing out what they did wrong. They never seem to be satisfied, and it's shown not just through how they speak to them, but in their body language, their facial expressions. There's no room for humor. There's no room to relax. There's no room to just do nothing and just have fun. It's almost like being in a boot camp, a military training camp. It's like from the time you get up to the time you go to bed, it's like boom, 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 boom. And he has such high expectations, and he runs it like a boot camp. And there's really no moment whatsoever where she gets the other side of a father's love, which is being told, hey, great job, or I love you. There's absolutely none of that. Those types of dads are going to create a woman who's going to be much more difficult to date. And again, it's no fault of her own, but because of her father, he's set her up to then be used to that type of interactions with men especially. And that's going to be reflected later on, and we'll get to that in the relationships that she has later on with men. So, when I say harsh, again, it's verbal, sometimes it's physical, but it's just constant. They're never good enough. And so the daughter, the woman, she just doesn't think she can ever live up to a man's expectations. And in this case, it's her father's expectations. So therefore, when she goes out into the world, she's going to continue that pattern of being with a guy who will never approve of her, she'll never be good enough for him. And I think, I'm going to guess a lot of you have seen women who do this on a repeat mode. Guy after guy, they just are, and they're just with the most, these guys are losers. There's the kind of guys who just, they talk a lot of shit, they have brutal expectations, but then they give no reprieve. They don't show any appreciation for it, and the girls just go after them hand over foot because, again, this is what they're used to, and this is what they've been raised to be like, to be around men like this. But there's something very interesting. A lot of these women are actually very high skilled because of the fact that they needed to be a perfectionist essentially to gain that approval from their father who was harsh. They end up being really good at a lot of things. They've got a lot of talents, a lot of skills, and a lot of the people around them think they're very dependable. And so they do actually take on a lot of responsibility because they get their validation only through work and only through doing things for others. It's very difficult for them to take a compliment, to receive love and affection. And we are going to get into this because this is a big part of it, because this is how it plays into your relationship. But they seek approval. They've substituted love and affection for, did I do a good job? Am I a perfectionist? Yes or no. If they didn't do a good job, they're very hard on themselves. If they are not perfect, they're very hard on themselves. And this keeps repeating over and over. And the sad thing is, you can never really satisfy that hunger, because no one's perfect. And you can always poke holes in any work that you do. You can find what's wrong with it. So they kind of eternally live in this loop of dissatisfaction. And it's really sad to see, because a lot of these girls are super talented, beautiful girls, but they live in this constant sense of dissatisfaction. And they just, what I want to get into next is that they have such a hard time receiving love. And this is where it will affect your relationship. Let's say you meet a woman like this who's comes from a harsh background, okay? And you give her compliments, like tell her she's beautiful or talented, and really praise her, and you show her love and affection. She may be okay with it at the beginning, but a lot of the times it makes her very uncomfortable. And this is because she's simply not used to it. She's been, I guess, for lack of a better word, trained to respond to different set of behaviors, which is just harsh judgment over and over and over again. And when you tell her she's beautiful or she's great, these words, she'll hear them, but they won't leave an imprint on her because she's never heard that before. So it kind of goes in one ear and out the other, and you won't really be able to get through to her. And at first you might just be like, okay, that's fine. But after a while, what happens is a couple of things. You will grow resentful because you'll notice that regardless of how you come to the table, you could be, you're most likely a very masculine guy, and you're comfortable in your masculinity. You're comfortable praising her when she needs it, and you're comfortable setting boundaries when you need it. But you'll come to find that regardless of if you praise her or not, she won't accept it, and it creates this distance between the two of you. You're not going to be able to have that intimacy that you would with a girl who was used to being praised or used to having a positive relationship with her father or other men in her life. Because girls who come from a background where they're used to men being, showing affection and stuff like that, they're gonna really appreciate when you say those things to her, and it's gonna mean a lot to her, and it will have an impact and resonate with her in a deeper level. Whereas women who are not, it's going to go in one ear and out the other. And you'll always somehow be left with this feeling of like, man, like even I'm telling all this stuff and she still doesn't lighten up. She still is so hard on herself, and she's always seems to be kind of bummed out about things. And you're going to see this. And again, the types of men that those women who grew up in harsh surroundings tend to gravitate towards are these sort of, again, heartless, very harsh douchebags who continue to treat her like that. And she gets stuck in this loop. And, as a masculine guy, what's frustrating is her view of men is so warped that she will equate you being masculine and having boundaries. Let's say something goes wrong and you're like, hey, you know what, this isn't cool with me. She's going to then take that and turn it against you because she just is not okay with somebody having a boundary like that, and clearly saying it, because she's never done that. With her harsh environment that she grew up in, she never got to say anything from her. It was just like, you're horrible, you do better. She just kept living with that over and over again. So for a man to say that to her, she's gonna take it as she fucked up. She's gonna take it as, oh, I did something wrong. And in her world, all she knows is wrong or right. And if I don't do it perfectly or right, then I must be wrong. And so now he's mad at me. So she's going to see you as being some sort of she'll see you as behaving very like mean or tyrannical in a way, like where she thinks that you're really coming down hard on her, when in fact you're just saying, hey, you know what, this doesn't work for me and we got to figure out something else. she's not going to hear it like that. She's going to take it very personally. And so any sort of, if she cannot be perfect for you, she's going to take it very hard. And that makes it difficult for you two to bond, because it's either, if she's perfect and you tell her, she won't like that because she's not used to it. And if she does something that crosses a boundary and you say that, well, she's going to be upset about that because now you've made her feel imperfect. So as you can see, this vicious cycle, this loop here. I hope this is making sense for you guys. This is a big topic. Okay. So let me go to this. Okay, so and another thing that happens too is that if the father is very domineering, when you guys are in a relationship, she's going to defer oftentimes to him and what he thinks about things, instead of coming to you and asking you and deferring to you as the man in the relationship. She's going to go to him, and now all of a sudden you've been outranked by her father, and this is going to cause tension and friction in the relationship that you two have together. So this is another reason why dating a woman who comes from this sort of background is a lot of work, and oftentimes it's just simply not worth it. Because you don't want to play second fiddle to a woman when it's supposed to be about you and her. You're the man, you should be the leader of the relationship. But if you're competing with another man, namely her father, that's a very difficult position to try to overcome. First of all, you may potentially create tension with him, tension between her and him, and all three of you. It's just a mess. Now, if you do decide to do something like this, you need to be very clear with her from the beginning, like, hey, you know what, once you and I, like, you know, it's between you and I. I'm not looking to get input from your father about certain things, especially stuff when it just concerns you and I. You know, if you need some help, then I'd like you to come to me first. You know, you need to establish these things. And, you know, to be honest with you, the simple act of even having to establish this, it makes it already gives strain on the relationship. She should be coming from a place where, to her, that's obvious. A place where she's going to be like, well, of course I defer to you. You are the man in my life. Why would I defer to my father for these things? Of course, it doesn't mean that she's not going to consult with him and talk to him, but when it comes to the matter of you two in a relationship, she should naturally want you to be the leader in her life. So if you already have to negotiate with her and explain this to her about her domineering father, this is a bad sign of things to come. And that's why I think, you know, it's very dangerous and risky to be dating somebody like that when you have to negotiate for your position. If she doesn't naturally want it, you're setting yourself up for some potentially troublesome waters ahead. If you somehow find yourself in a relationship with this type of a woman, or starting to date a woman like this, I mean, you have to be on your game. You have to be ultra confident. You have to be in your masculine. You have to be willing to really put your foot down hard and set those boundaries firm, because, and this is why this is not a fun thing to do, you have to, again, outrank and supersede the relationship that she has with her dad. And if you're fighting for that, you know, still somewhere deep in her mind, she's going to be thinking about what he would say and her getting his approval about certain things that you and her do. So again, you're just starting a relationship and you're already competing with another man, and that's just no fun. So when you're first starting off dating, you want to check, you want to feel out what is her relationship with her father like, because if he's super domineering and has like a very iron fist on what she does, my recommendation is stay away from these type of girls. It's just going to make your life much more difficult. Instead, you want to look and see if she's had a relationship with her dad that's been nurturing, that he's got boundaries, he stands up for himself, he's not a pushover kind of a dude, but he gives her love and attention, and they get along well. She respects him and wants his approval in a positive way, not out of fear, but because she loves him and respects him. But then also when she enters into a relationship with a man like yourself, that she wants to give you that respect and she wants to defer to you. If she's doing these things, this is a very good sign, and you know, it's going to keep you in your masculine side, because she's not going to accept anything less. Like, you got to be masculine. You have to be a man with boundaries. You'll stand up for yourself, but you're also going to give her love and affection. And you want a girl who's going to be able to receive those things. Women who grow up in the more healthy family, they're gonna have a natural inclination for being feminine, for being whether it be their looks or just their behavior. I mean, I'm specifically referring to their behavior, being feminine, because some women are very feminine, but they might not be the most gorgeous thing, which is fine. But you have to be careful, because there's a lot of women on the other side, the domineering side, who look just hot. They're very feminine looking, got the cleavage and just everything, and you're just like, wow. But on the inside, they don't live like that. They might have some very masculine tendencies that are going to be more tough, because again, if she's living under the fist of a domineering father, they're gonna tend to be more masculine. So just be aware of this. So just checking the time here. Just be aware that if you're out there looking, try and be sure to get a sense of what her relationship is like with her father, and if he's a great guy, has shown her love, you'll be able to tell. The way she speaks about him, the way she speaks about men in general, you can tell right away. And these are the type of women that you want to gravitate towards. With the other type of women, it's going to be much more difficult, a lot more work. And, I'm not saying that those women are bad people at all. But your game has to be airtight. You have to be so dominant. You have to be so masculine and ready to come and tackle and be able to overcome a lot more work than you would with a girl who's just naturally feminine and sweet. So that is my 2 cents on women who are from a very domineering father, and some of the problems, some of the reasons why they're like that, and some of the problems that you run into if you date them, and just the reasons why they behave the way they do that may be puzzling you. But if you have any other questions, please feel free to comment down below. I'd love to know if any of you have dated a woman like this. If you'd like one-on-one coaching, you can also book a session with me down below, and we'll set up a session that will tackle any challenge that you are currently facing. All right, guys, we'll see you in the next one.